Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Micah Crowdy, a WJ screenwriter and the head of writing at Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. And if you want to start writing your script for free, there is a link in the description, or you can just Google Arc Studio and you'll find it yourselves. This is Let's Write Scripts. What are we doing here today? We are writing. We're going to do 3 timed writing sprints where you can work on your script, whether that be a pilot, maybe you're writing a feature, maybe you're writing a short film, or maybe you have some other kind of creative project. Maybe you're working on a book or a short story or a poem or some essays, or like, honestly, sometimes people are just doing something for work and they just want to have a little creative energy around them as they do it. That's cool, but what we really focus on here, of course, is screenwriting. So yeah, we'll be doing 3 timed writing sprints. And in those sprints, they're unprompted. You just kind of work on whatever it is that you're here to work on, whatever you need to do. And then we'll be chatting in between the sprints, and I will be answering any questions you have about the craft of screenwriting. But before we get into it, I want to know, where are you and what are you writing today? Those are 2 usual questions. And then we have a discussion question to get our brains going. And this is the last Let's Write Scripts of this year, of the calendar year for 2025. We'll be off for the next 2 weeks and then back in January. So I thought maybe it'd be a good time for a little reflection and maybe a little time to look back and see how have you grown in this past year. So I want to know where you are and what you're writing today. Are you writing a feature, a pilot, a book, whatever it is? But I also want to know, how have you grown as a writer this past year? So kind of how you've grown, and what have you learned? What have you learned about screenwriting, about the craft of writing, about yourself as a writer? What have you learned? So calling for a little introspection here. Looking back at the year, it is December. It's kind of crazy that this year has flown by. Time has ceased to make sense to me as a concept, I feel like, in the past few years, but it keeps passing. So yeah, a little introspection, maybe retrospection actually is the correct word here. As you look back at this year, and how have you grown as a writer? I want to know, how have you grown? You know, we talk a lot about screenwriting, and part of this is to make progress on your scripts, but like, it's more important, I believe, to focus on your growth as a screenwriter. I think those are the metrics, to always be learning, always be growing, always be developing. So that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit today. I just want to know, and I'll share some things kind of that I've thought of about my past year, and maybe some of your guys' comments will spark a few thoughts there too. So where are you? What are you writing today? And how have you grown as a writer in this past year? What have you learned in this past year? Let's see here. If you're feeling it, please like the video, hit subscribe, turn on all notifications, all that good stuff. And of course, during the second break, after the second writing sprint, I will be showing you the sandwich of the week. If you're new and if you're wondering what is the sandwich of the week, this is called a tease, because you have to wait until the second break to find out what the sandwich of the week is. But I'm going to answer these questions myself. I'm in LA. It is a beautiful, sunny fall day. I think technically it's not yet winter because we haven't hit the solstice, but in my mind, December is winter. And it's crazy to think that it's not. So it is winter here. It's the holiday season, but it's a beautiful day. It's not too hot. Last week it was actually like 80 something, and that was not cool for December. But like today we're in like the cool 70s, and there's just like a little crispness in the air. So I'll take that. I'm working on a pitch for an animated feature that I've been developing. So that's what I'm going to be working on. That's what I'm working on today. And then how have I grown as a writer this past year? What have I learned? I was thinking a little bit about this. And one thing I think I've improved on, just in terms of my understanding of story structure, oftentimes I think when I kind of started as a writer, I was more of just like kind of an instinctual writer, just like getting excited about something and then just kind of like going with it. And I still kind of am that at my core, but I feel like I've gotten better at learning how to shape that and kind of look holistically and step back at what I'm working on and see kind of how it's working and how it's not working structurally. So I think that's a way that something I've learned this year or grown. And another thing I would say, and this is something I've mentioned before on the show, is the more you write, the more you grow in your confidence, which can be weird because you suffer a lot of disappointments, certainly in this industry. But you gain confidence in the sense that you face a problem, story-wise, character-wise, on the craft level, some sort of problem. Your script isn't working, there's a plot hole, your character doesn't work. You face these problems and it kind of feels like the end of the world. But then you just kind of keep working at it, and eventually you figure it out. You figure it out. That's what you do. You figure it out. And then the more you do that, the more you face problems and then solve those problems, face creative problems and solve those creative problems, the more you gain your confidence that you will be able to solve them. So it's not that you stop facing problems. You do. You're always going to face problems. The top screenwriters in the world on the biggest studio project, whatever, there's going to be, tons of creative problems. I remember like when I was a script coordinator on Better Call Saul first season, watching Vince Gilligan, the best TV writer maybe in the world, just like banging his head against the wall, like literally, because there's a problem and eventually you fix it. So I think I have grown in confidence in the sense that, yeah, when I face problems now, I just kind of know, just like, don't panic, keep at it, and eventually you will find a solution. So that's what I would say here. Love and seeing everyone in the chat. Cash from Arkansas working on a second short film. Paula from Nova. Tamara from Sova, I guess. I don't know if anyone actually says Sova, but it's just kind of funny that we had Nova and Sova right there. Or Tamara. I'm going to say Tamara. That's what I'm feeling that. And let me know if I'm wrong. Working on a pilot, so glad you're here. JP down in Australia, working on a short film and fleshing out character arcs. Love it. Amy up in Portland, Oregon, between atmospheric rivers. Oh my gosh, yeah, Portland, that sounds particularly wet. Not really a dry place. Working on a second feature script. Awesome. Tessa is working your day job in Studio City copywriting, and this year you've grown by trusting your instincts and learning that writing by hand does wonders for your creativity. That's awesome. I love switching it up too. I mean, I'm mostly a laptop writer, but I do have like my legal pads that sometimes I will need to switch it up and write out by hand. So that's great. Cash has learned your style and the thing that gets you most excited to finish, as in the thing that gets me most excited to finish. I've completed projects not finished, but they aren't. Wait, what? Okay, I have learned my style as in the thing that gets me excited to finish. Okay, I have completed projects not finished, but they aren't complete. Not finished, but they aren't complete. I don't know what you're saying there, man, but let me know. I'm glad you've learned your style. Stiaran's still gathering ideas for a new feature. Glad to see you here. From Ireland, Juno in Massachusetts working on your pilot. OMG, 2025 was a crazy year. I guess I've grown by thinking of myself as a writer, even when life has thrown obstacles in the way of my own writing. Yeah, I mean, the label of writer is just like something you kind of feel like you earn, but like the only way you do it, like it's just, writing is a thing you do. Like if you write, then you're a writer. I think we all everyone wants to like make their money from it and to be like a professional writer, but like it's just it's a label earned by doing the thing. Like if you write, then you're a writer. Like it's what you do. So that's cool. Is the animated project writing the Dog Detective? No, but I do actually kind of want to write the Dog Detective thing at some point. Tamara is thinking much more about structure and timing now, like not just what a scene says, but when it earns saying it. Ooh, that makes perfect sense. Quitting my job helped a lot. My brain has room and time now. I mean, that's great. Fantastic. Good luck. Hope quitting your job works out. It's always a scary thing to do, but if you can pull it off, that's awesome. Chris is in the UK, spent more time outlining than writing this year, which is something that's really helped me develop better ideas. That's another, you know what, Chris? That's another thing I've learned. I've developed more patience this year. I have learned to sit with like this thing I'm working on right now. I've just kind of been taking my time on it and like doing a little bit on it and then kind of working on some other things and coming back to it, because I had kind of a premise, but I didn't have the full thing. And every time I come back to it, it's developing and it's changing. And it's kind of like if I had launched into it right away, it would have turned into a project. I don't think it would have been as good. And I think sometimes patience is an underrated thing, because it makes sense. There's a different, there's a line between patience and procrastination, right? You just eventually you're not getting anything done. But sometimes when you're in the gestational phase, you're in the brain, when it's developing, you need patience. And that's kind of, I think, part of the spending time in outlining gives you that a little bit. Like it gives time for things to develop before you launch out on them. JMF, coming from New York City, 25 was hectic, lots of inspiration, wrote some plays, but this is my first crack at a book and lyrics for a musical. Oh, that's so cool. I haven't ever tried to write that before, but it's such like an interesting form. Learned structure and now can process my ideas, which is great. That sounds awesome. Paul, think back to when I was young. There were so many bad movies on cable 24/7. It seems the bar is so much higher now, but that's a good thing. It's so funny because like you're gonna find so many people who say like movies are bad now and like they're trash and that like they used to be good, and it's just like I personally think there's always been bad movies and good movies. I think we just see them in different places now, and so it sort of it changes our, I don't know, maybe our expectations or our experience of like what is there, or our interpretation maybe of the events, because it's just like we're not seeing them in the same spots that they used to be. But I've been seeing some beautiful movies. I just saw The Secret Agent, a Brazilian movie by Kleber Mendonça Filho, who's one of my favorite directors. He did a couple other movies, this movie Aquarius and this movie Neighboring Sounds, this movie Bacurau. I love this director. His latest one, I just saw Train Dreams, which is like a beautiful film. Yeah, so I've been trying to catch up kind of on some of the like awards contenders and stuff. Because I'm in the Writers Guild, also I get like screeners for stuff. A lot of those like from Netflix and Amazon, which is like I already have that anyways, but sometimes you get something on a screener that you can't see somewhere else, which is like one of the perks. Pam from New Mexico, working on your feature rom-com, grown by becoming less of a perfectionist. Great. Learned not to make my story too much about me or it blocks my creativity. That is interesting. Yourself as a font of creativity, as a resource to draw upon. There's such a balance there, because that's how you experience the world, right? Is yourself. So you have to draw upon that. But at some point you have to, like, particularly characters, when you're writing characters, I've been thinking about this a little bit, how sometimes it's really good to have your characters be irrational or unreasonable. And like an average person would react to a situation and just kind of like be like, okay, I'm sorry, and like walk away. But like you usually don't want your character to do that. And so like knowing what to draw from yourself, and like the line though to draw, so that you're not limiting your character just to you, who is probably just sort of like a normal person, is interesting. And that's like a good balance. That's a good point to think about. I'm glad you brought that up. Zoe has learned how volatile writing can be, and I've learned to tailor my writing style according to a specific writing objective, from essays to novels writing. That's great. Yeah, I mean, for every form there is a different approach or voice. I love that. That's awesome. Man, I should have got Tamara, and then I was like, I got too fancy. That was the first thing I said was Tamara. Then I'm like, no, it's Tamara. Tamara. All right, I got it now. Kelly from Kansas, finishing an extra for the feature to hand to producer on Friday. TikTok. Awesome. Good luck. Well, we're going to get writing soon. I'm just loving to see everyone here. Cash, I was saying, he has finally finished a script. I used to finish, but there were chapters of a bigger project that would never complete. Okay, so you kind of changed the scope of it a little bit. So like before you would set yourself in a way where like you couldn't finish because it was a thing that was too big. But now, like there used to be with the phrase for big, too big to fail. It was too big to finish. And now you actually have a thing that you can finish. All right, that's awesome. I love that. Quan in Atlanta. Hey man, good to see you. Super excited. Feel really good about the short I've been writing this group. Great. Got great notes for it. And now I'm submitting it for a grant. Hey man, good luck. Hope you get some money. That's awesome. Okay, fantastic. I'm loving this energy, guys. This is gonna be great. And again, this is our last one of the year. We'll be back on the 7th. So I think it's good just to kind of think back also, because sometimes like you can think of a year and not necessarily you're like, what did I accomplish? And it can be hard. You're like, okay, I didn't, but like if your growth is an accomplishment, and so that's one of the kind of accomplishments that needs to be celebrated along with other kinds of accomplishments. So glad we could take that moment to like have a retrospective and think about how we've grown in the last year. And I love that some of your guys's kind of answers made me think about some other ways that I've grown that I hadn't even thought of off the bat, like growing in patience, because I'm one of the most impatient people in the world, but I've gotten a little better at not rushing my ideas. So that's great. Juno, finishing projects is a New Year's resolution for 2026. The final boss I've never defeated. Need to force myself to do it. Well, I think that's a good segue for us to get into writing today and finishing our projects for 2025, because we are still in 2025. So we're going to do the first writing sprint right now. And if you're new, what's going to happen is I'm going to put a timer up on the screen and it'll count down. play some vibey music. I'll be muted and I'm gonna shrink off to the little side. Don't worry, I'm okay. I'll be able to regain my full size later. And yeah, 15 minutes for the first one. It's the warm-up sprint. Oftentimes we're just like reading back over our work, or free writing, or just kind of getting in the vibe, getting in the zone, kind of like figuring out where we were, where our characters were, what we were trying to accomplish. But any progress you make in the opening sprint is gravy. It's bonus. It's beautiful. But again, it's like a low bar. Who is it? Like, we lower the bar. Was that someone? Was that Juno? Who said that as the motto for our group, perhaps, for Let's Write Scripts? I love that. So let's lower the bar. We lower the bar here on Let's Write Scripts for the first sprint. So I'm going to get the music going here. Going to get the timer going, and we will check back in 15 minutes. And chat away. I'll answer questions. If you have any right. are done. The first writing sprint here on Let's Write Scripts, Wednesday, December 17th, 2025, the final Let's Write Scripts of the year 2025. It is a monumental occasion that should be addressed with gravitas and respect, as it is final of 2025. Anyways, welcome to everyone who joined during that writing sprint. So glad you're here. If you're doing that writing sprint, I want to know, how did it go? How was the writing going today? Are the muses with us, or are they already checked out for the holidays? Or are they filled with holiday spirit? Maybe channeling some of that energy to you. I want to know, how did that sprint go? And if the muses are checked out, if they're doing perhaps some holiday shopping, or drinking some eggnog at this moment, roasting some chestnuts over an open fire, perhaps, instead of helping you write, is there anything particular that you are struggling with? I love to answer any screenwriting questions that you might have, anything about the craft of screenwriting, anything about your story, your characters, your structure, your scenes. If you have any questions, please let me know. Get into the chat and tell me how. Yeah, get in the chat. Tell me how it's going, and ask any questions. I love it. I love getting into that. As I said, this is the last one of the week, so of the year. So no announcements. Basically, the announcement is just to say that next week on the 24th, which is Christmas Eve, there will be no Let's Write Scripts. I'll be off. And the week after that is New Year's Eve. And I will also be on vacation. So there will be no Let's Write Scripts that week either. Instead, we will be coming back on January 7th, Wednesday, January 7th at 1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, we'll be back at it. And then, for the year, we should be, pretty much going every week for a while. I think. Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be exciting. So it's exciting for the new year. And then hopefully we're going to have some cool things in 2025 to announce. There's a kind of a cool event that I'm kind of looking forward to. It's still coming together, so I can't announce it yet, but I think it's going to be happening, and it's going to be pretty awesome. It went very fast for Quand. Yeah, that's the first one. And for Cash, it went well. My sprint was a little slow, I think. I'm kind of doing some world building kind of stuff. I'm thinking about the world of my script, and for animated projects, it needs to be very big. It needs to be very visual. If you guys, maybe some of you saw it, but earlier in the year I did a Q&A with Pamela Ryman, who has written some really awesome animated stuff, and she was talking about, it's why isn't animated is the question. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now, and having some ideas, but I'm sort of trying to expand sort of the visual palette and kind of what makes it interesting, because with animation you really can do a lot of cool stuff in terms of breaking the physics of your world, so that's how I was doing on this one. For Tamara, yes, this good music choice is perfect. I need to improve my big time. It's just enough time and stop me from overthinking. Yeah, the 15-minute sprint is a nice one just to get into it. Again, it is the introductory sprint. Kelly started slow, but hopeful for next round. So no questions today. I feel usually this was last week too. Last week there weren't as many screenwriting questions. Maybe when you guys have learned too much. Going back to our intro question about what you've learned this year, you've asked all the questions that you have for 2025 and are just ready to go. But if you do have any questions, please get in there. I love to discuss, because oftentimes if you're thinking about something, it's not just going to be edifying for you, it's going to be helpful for the group to hear a discussion on that topic. So please get into that. June had a pretty good sprint, just getting started. Yeah, picked up the Sid Field screenplay book at the library this week. And if you read it, recommend it. I love reading about story structure. It's really interesting. Sid Field has sort of a controversial reputation kind of within the industry. And it's, because it's a lot of people read it and it was very helpful, but then it kind of became such a touchstone that execs would refer to, that people sort of there was a backlash against it. But I feel it is very helpful to read and kind of get an understanding of story structure. I think where it can be difficult or problematic is when you think that is how you have to write, right? And this is something we talk about on the show about tools, not rules, right? So if you think of it as a tool and a way to like think about story that can help you, that's great. But if you think about like you have to write in this way, then it can be limiting and frustrating, because a lot of those things, those structures are kind of coming from after the fact, right? Like looking at stories, but like not as a generative tool, right? Not as a way of a creation tool, a creative tool. So if you feel like, oh, your thing doesn't fit this template or whatever, like that's fine. Most movies don't actually fit templates. They kind of have to be like forced and massaged into them to make them fit. So that's what I would say, Juno. Kelly has a question about comps, which means comparisons. And a comp is basically if you're pitching a project or working on a project, you can say it's like this, you know, it's like this meets this. And so it helps people understand kind of the tone and what you're going for. I'm writing a serious drama feature, but I realize that Finding Nemo is an actual comp. Is it weird to use an animated comp for drama? I would say it can be, this could be a little confusing in a sense, because like tonally, it's going to be very different. You know, but you could say like, sometimes you can say the meets, like Finding Nemo meets something serious, but even then people are going to be like a little confused. I don't know. I'd be wary about using Finding Nemo as a comp if it's a serious drama, just because I feel like that's going to give people like some sort of idea about like the tone of it that isn't perhaps like as accurate, you know, as what you're working on. Since comedy is so subjective, how do you tell if it's good and not just personally good? Oh man. So trial and error, honestly, is probably the best way to do this. With writing comedy, basically what you do is you write what you think is funny, and then you just see if other people, if there's an audience that agrees with you, kind of like if you're trying to aim your comedy too much, particularly like when you're starting and trying to establish your voice, it's very difficult to do that. I mean, like most people who kind of became successful comedy writers, they just like wrote what they thought was funny. They tried to make themselves laugh. They tried to make their friends laugh, and it just kind of grew from there. I think like there are some things that you can think about, like what kind of audience, like is it if you're the only one that thinks that's funny, but if you think about like friends of yours that would find that funny, right? That would kind of a suggested audience, or like family members, or like a certain subculture, you know, that can be helpful in terms of like comedy. But a lot of it is like trial and error and developing your voice and just kind of like trying to find an audience that agrees, trying to find your people who resonate with your kind of vibration, your frequency of weirdness a little bit here. Is anyone bothered by repetitive language tics? I just searched old script for the word just. It comes up too many times. Has anyone identified there? Oh, yes. Has anyone else identified their overused words or phrases? Yes. I have a thing in my action lines where I'll say someone starts to do something. He starts, smile. He starts, she starts to do something. And that's like something often I have in my early drafts that I have to go to and just be like, no, have them do it. They don't need to start to do something. They do it. So that's like a tick of mine that I don't like and I overuse. So I go back and have to take those out when I'm kind of doing my revisions. Now it's actually, I'm trying to like, I do it more right away. I'll be like, he starts, well, I'm like, nope, don't do that. It's just like when you're saying it starts to, it's a level of remove. It's kind of makes it feels a little passive. It's longer. It's just, it's annoying, but that's one of the tips. I'm sure now I'm going to be thinking about many more. Be curious to hear other people's though, as well. Tamara, I'm super new to this, so I have many questions. How much scene setting is too much? There's much conflicting advice out there. How do I determine how much is needed? So there are a couple things that can be helpful. One, generally tend towards less, you don't need a lot. Two, think about your audience. What do they need to know about this, really? Like, they don't need to know perhaps a lot. There are things that you'll think of and you'll be like, this is a detail. And you have to think, does the audience need to actually know that? If they don't need to know it, then you don't really need to include it. Include the details that are relevant to the audience that they're going to need to know. But it's also like with scene setting, the vibe is more important than the details, right? Like, if you're walking into a scary house, it's more important that the audience knows it's scary than they know about the 17 portraits and the 5 chandeliers and the 3 candelabras and the blah, you know, like you don't have to like list out everything. So like you what you kind of do is you get a little sketch. You get a way of like a shorthand of kind of like trying to say, you know, like what it is in a way, but you're trying to get across like the vibe and what's relevant, you know, in the sense of like if someone's walking into, you know, a castle, I'm trying, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, but if there's some sort of like detail, like if there's a gun on the wall that someone's going to grab and use later or something like that, then like you want to mention that there's a gun, you know, that kind of a thing. My session was on placing the break in a musical, the first emotional arc to the character, audience, or at the my session was on placing the break in a musical, the first emotional arc of the character / audience, or at the actually structural high. The former actually leads to more dynamics of bumping the norm. You know what? I'm not like an expert on musical structure, so I wish I could give you a better thing than this, but especially for like live like plays and stuff, I haven't really worked at that. If other people have some advice in there, but like I don't want to give you advice that I'm just pulling out of thin air. So there you go. Tessa does the begins to thing. Yeah, I don't think we're alone. I think a lot of people do this, which is interesting. Tamara has absorbs. So as someone's absorbing like information, is that it? But yeah, I get that. Awesome. Juno, I have a character in a fantasy story who needs to find the ingredients to a spell, but I'm worried about the quest become repetitive for each ingredient. Is this maybe just a boring idea? I mean, sorry, my brain's like it's like processing. It's not a boring idea. I think there are kind of different things. There are different approaches to this. One is that like the spell is just part of it, and then there's other things. Two, I would say is that like the ingredients require sort of different things. Like they're not the same kind of challenge, you know, every time. But because there is a risk of that becoming repetitive. If it's just like you have to get this, then you have to get this. Like you want kind of different kinds of problems to be solving. So this is an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, like oftentimes I feel like it's in movies, it's more likely that there's one thing that they need, kind of like they have the ingredients and they need to get a dragon's tooth or a dragon scale or something like that. And so then the big thing is going to find the dragon, and like that's kind of the big sort of challenge of the movie, is going to get the scale from the dragon and like surviving that. So having like 5 different ingredients that are all kind of the same importance and stuff, I feel like could be, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it could be tricky structurally to find ways to make that not feel repetitive, if that makes sense, I would say here. All right, great. Cool. Love it. All right, we had some questions there in the end, so that was great. Let's do another writing sprint. We're going to do a 25-minute writing sprint. So this is the Goldilocks writing sprint. Oh, the sun is moving, so I need to adjust my. So I have a window in front of me, and in the winter the sun blasts through it, and so I tape up old script pages on there, and then I tear them down in the summer when the sun's at a higher angle. So that's what I'm staring at. It's so funny that like I'll like look up these script pages and be like, wait, what scene was that I wrote that I'm like staring at, and I'll like forget it's there. But I have to adjust now so the sun doesn't blast me in the eyes. Anyways, we are going to go into the 25-minute writing sprint here. So this is going to be, again, like I like to say that this is the Goldilocks writing sprint, because we're warmed up, but we're not tired. This is the 25-minute writing sprint. It's the one in the middle. So we're going to do 25 minutes on the clock, and then we'll come back. We'll chat more. I'll answer more questions. I'll share the sandwich of the week, the final sandwich of the week for 2025. And then we'll do one more writing sprint, and we'll go our merry ways. So 25 minutes on the clock. Favorite writing music of the 3 tracks that we use. Relaxing music for reflection and creativity. 16102, the finest and royalty-free music streaming. But 25 minutes on the clock. Let's go. I'll see you guys on the other side. And that brings us to the end of the second writing sprint, the Goldilocks writing sprint here on Let's Write Scripts. Because it's the middle writing sprint, you're warmed up but not too tired. And that's why it's the Goldilocks sprint. Welcome to everyone who joined during that sprint. Welcome, Brian from Jacksonville. So glad you're here. If you're doing that sprint, I want to know how it went. If you were struggling in the first sprint, did things turn around for you in the second sprint? Did you find your second wind or maybe your first wind? And if you were doing well in the first sprint, but then you kind of hit a wall in the second sprint, let me know. And again, if there's anything particular that you're struggling with or you have questions about, please feel free. This could be something that's inspired by what you're working on right now, or it could be just kind of a general question you have about screenwriting, the craft of screenwriting, about dialogue, about character, about story, about scenes, pacing, all those kinds of things. Arcs, yeah, get in the chat and let me know. Again, this is our last Let's Write Scripts of the year of 2025, and we'll be off next week, the 24th, and the 31st, New Year's Eve. So Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve will be off, and then we'll be back on January 7th, and then we'll hit the ground running in 2026, which sounds insane to say. I have this weird thing where I think of years in terms of like graduation years, right? The class of 2025, the class of 2026. So my brain has this weird like dissonance where as time passes, it actually feels like things are getting younger instead of older, because I think of like the class of 2026 as like children, like they're tiny little people. So even though like I'm getting older and more and more time is passing, it feels sort of like the world's getting younger, just because I think of like the class of 2025, the class of 2026. Because like in college, I was the class of 2008. So now for like the class of 2026, that's 18 years. Wow, which is like an entire teenager has happened since then. So like I graduated high school in 2024. Yeah, so someone who like was born when I graduated high school is now graduating college, which is just like trippy. I don't know. Does anyone else have that thing where they like look at time, like the years, and think of the class of that? So like 2026, yeah, is a younger year than 2025, than 2024. It's like, I don't know. It's a bizarro thing that my brain does about time. Anyways, that's just me. Cash had a pretty good writing session, but got to figure out how to end it. Of course, you always got to do. Everyone else, yeah, get in the chat. Let me know. How's your writing going? How was that sprint? Any questions that you're dealing with in this final, because this is kind of our final question answering session of 2025, actually, because we're going to do the last sprint after this, and then we'll be done. So if you have any questions about screenwriting, the craft of screenwriting for 2025, speak now or forever hold your peace. Or not forever, just hold it for 2 weeks, and then we'll be back. Actually, I guess technically 3 weeks. But yeah, till January 7th, they'll be back, and you can ask it then. Zoe likes my way of looking at the concept of time. That's good. It feels weird to me. It doesn't feel refreshing. It feels very odd to me. Like I'm getting older, but the world's getting younger, which I guess is a normal sense of aging, is that as you get older, it feels like the world's younger, and you're just sort of confused by what's happening more and more. Which is just, I guess, like a generational, which is actually kind of nice that that's something that unites us across time, is that kind of all generations feel like that eventually, that we're all just sort of like, what's going on? So yeah, it's something that unites us. It brings humanity together, feeling out of touch with a world that seems younger relatively to you. Chris, I was talking earlier about patience, about how I was learning more patience and developing my ideas. And Chris says, it's funny you mentioned patience. I've had this idea spinning around my head for a year, every day, evolving and refining itself as a challenge. I just fired up arc and scribble down the opening image. Yeah, that's awesome. Sometimes you can just have things that are gestating. I find it interesting sometimes you'll hear someone like behind the scenes or after a new movie or you hear some story. It's like, how long did it take you to write this? And they'll be like, well, it took me 2 years and then, 2 weeks to write the first draft. Like I was just thinking about it for 2 years, basically. And then I sat down and wrote the first draft, and in like very quickly. And sometimes that's how it works, where you just have something and you just sort of like, I don't know, benign neglect kind of is maybe it, or like where you need to tend it, but it's like plants, right? Like one of the reasons so many plants die, I've learned because my wife is a big plant person, is that people overwater their plants, right? It's like you see your plant and it seems like maybe it's like drooping slightly, or there's a little brown spot on it or something. And so people like give it, oh, it needs more water. And then it's a little worse. Then they need more water. And like, they're basically like poisoning the plant with the water. And sometimes it's like that with ideas, where like you need to just give it a little tending at times, just like think about it, work with it a little bit. And then sometimes also just like step away and like let it kind of percolate, and then, get it back. I don't know. It's one of the, it's a frustrating thing about like the arts and writing, is that there aren't like firm answers to any of these things. Like it depends on you, it depends on the subject, like the idea, the time, like all sorts of things. Because sometimes you do just need to like bang your head against a wall and you'll figure it out. And sometimes you need to let it breathe a little bit, and you don't really know at the moment what it is. You just sort of have to try both and see which one works, which is part of the magic and the mystery of it. But yeah, there we go. Would the direction say angrily be next to the name or under it? Okay, so that's called a parenthetical, and that would be under it. So you'd have the name, and then so in Arc Studio, when you write the name, you just hit tab, and it'll automatically be in a parenthetical, and then you'll hit return, and you'll go into the dialogue. So yeah, so you would never have the direction, again, that's called a parenthetical because it's in parentheses. You'd never have the parenthetical next to the name. The thing that's next to the name in a script would be like VO for voiceover, or OS for off screen. So, or sometimes you'll have people will use that for like, they'll put radio or something like that, or TV to like tell you where it's coming from, but it's not a direction. It's not a parenthetical next to the name. It is a commentary on like how it's being heard. But yeah, so it's under the name in parentheses is a parenthetical. Say angrily, laughing, Riley. Sometimes people used to like say Riley a lot because it was like back in the 50s when people talked like this, see? And so parentheticals are nicknamed Rileys, actually, because there was like a joke that people used to put Riley. Now I'd probably like sarcasticallys. There's probably an era where everyone was using like sarcastically too much in parentheticals. But yeah, there you go. Oh, excellent sprint for Brian. Great. Rasmus, Joan more often, just a good reminder to keep writing no matter what. Yeah. Hey, that's great. Yeah, love it. No, you are welcome back again. We're off 2 weeks, back January 7th. 2009. We don't talk about that. The past. Let's leave it. Let's leave it there. All right. Awesome. Okay, now it's gonna be the sandwich of the week. So if you're wondering what that is, every week I just show a photo of the best looking and perhaps best tasting sandwich that I have made this week. And we do it because I love sandwiches, and this community has come to love sandwiches. So here we go. This is the sandwich of the week. And this one is a holiday card. Happiest holidays from my plate to yours. And this is the sandwich that I made on Monday. And I kind of did a thing where I actually had the pieces facing different ways. Usually it'd be cut in half and both the faces would be facing the camera. But for this particular bread, the black sesame on the backside of the slices is so beautiful. So I had one kind of facing this way and one facing the other way. So you get really a great sense of the black sesame, which when you're like cutting this bread open, just scatters all over the kitchen. It looks like ants have invaded. But this is a beautiful one on black sesame bread with salmon. So this was, I like to do a thing where we'll have salmon for dinner one night and I'll save some of it for my sandwich the next day. So this was salmon, air fryer salmon on black sesame bread with pickles, cheddar cheese. You see some stone ground mustard in there. You'll see some sun-dried tomato, some avocado, some greens, some mayo, and a pickle. A little slice of pickle up there. So this is the sandwich of the week, the final sandwich of the week for 2025. Yes, contrast, drama, a new presentation. Yeah, it is interesting because it's so hilarious where like every week when I make my sandwich for the sandwich of the week and I plate it, I'm just staring at this thing being like, what's the what's the best angle for this sandwich? Which in the moment just feels kind of dumb when I'm doing it, but I'm just like turning it and just like looking at it and just like staring at the sandwich, being like, how do I photograph this sandwich to make it look good? And I'm like, I'm just going to try something crazy this week. Oh, thank you, Tamara. Yes, this one was a beauty. It was weird. Like when I was making it, I'm like, I don't know, this one's not going to come out very well. But then like sort of looking at it and like just thinking the little sesame seeds on it, like it's beautiful. It's got that beautiful. Salmon is a thing that I didn't used to like until basically kind of started making it myself. Because I was used to sort of like, I guess think like, I don't know, like how to describe it, like cafeteria salmon. Like salmon was just kind of like a mushy fish, sort of. But then once I started like air frying it, and like you just kind of get it crispy, like it gets crispy and juicy, and it's just so good. And like I don't know, I like the salmon that I make more than like the salmon I get at most restaurants. Like a lot of restaurants, it is just kind of feels a little just kind of like mushy. But this is great. Yeah, where's the pickle hate? I can't remember who it was. There's one specific person who hated pickles, but maybe they just stopped voicing their opposition. They might still be here, but they're just keeping silent about their hatred of pickles. All right, so here we go. And again, I mean this sentiment, happiest holidays from my plate to yours. I hope you all have great holiday seasons. Whichever whatever you are celebrating, or if you're just being with family, I hope you get some time off from school or work. I love the holidays. We just decorated our tree last night. We actually got the tree yesterday. We like wait till like the trees are discounted sometimes, and we'll like run out at like lunchtime and like grab a small tree, and then like I don't know, it's sort of become like a lunch, like a ritual, and we do it sort of like last minute because we're kind of lazy a little bit. But it's also just kind of fun. It's like anything can become a ritual if you do it long enough, and you just like need to have rituals. Like you got to have that sense of play. And I think rituals are really fun for that. And like, it's a tradition. So there we go here. Great. Cool. Well, I think we're going to get into the final writing sprint for this year. Wow, it's just crazy to say. I mean, how many Let's Write Scripts have we done this year? There's 52 weeks in a year. We took off maybe a couple weeks. Taking off next week, so that's one. Thanksgiving week was 2. I think maybe missed 1. So it's 3. So 50, like 49 maybe Let's Write Scripts this year. So somewhere around there, which is pretty crazy. But it's pretty awesome. I always say it's one of my favorite times of the week, hanging out with you guys, writing, talking about screenwriting, answering your questions, and showing sandwiches, talking about sandwiches. Sandwich Chat coming soon, my new podcast. No, it's not. But I'm so glad you guys are all here. We're going to get into it now, the final writing sprint. So this is just going to be a 15-minute sprint. Oh, because we're already near the time, 2:24. Sandwich looks great. Sprint was good, and happy holidays to all. That's what more. Kelly just like encapsulating it all right there. So anyways, I'm going to do 15 minutes on the clock. We're going to do our final sprint. If you have to leave, please say farewell in the chat. Let me know how it went, and I hope to see you on January 7th. And if you stick around for the sprint, we'll say our final farewells after it. But 15 minutes on the clock. Let's try to buckle down. One last writing sprint of the. Let's do it. Here we go. that's it. Actually, I have an idea right at the end there. Like scurrying to get it down before the timer or to beat the clock. But I want to thank you all so much for making this such a wonderful year for Let's Write Scripts. It's so fun writing with you guys. I'm excited to take a little break and be back in January. Again, we are off the next 2 weeks. No Let's Write Scripts on the 24th and 31st. I'll be on vacation, but we'll be back on January 7th, Wednesday, January 7th at 1 p.m. Show up this time or RSVP at the link in the description. Yeah, I just wish you all the happiest of holidays. Hope you have a great break. Hope you have some time off to be with friends and family and with your writing. That's the nice thing about having some time off, is more time for writing. So just because we're not meeting doesn't mean you shouldn't be writing. So look forward to seeing you all in a few weeks on January 27th. Please, as always, take care of yourselves and happy writing. See you guys in the new year.